My grandmother, Catherine Goober, more commonly known as Tilly, was born March 2, 1927 in Kopstal, Luxembourg. She grew up in Dommeldange, Luxembourg with her parents Jean and Cecile and her two sisters and brother. My grandma was just a teenager when World War II started. On May 10, 1940, Germany occupied Luxembourg. My grandma remembers that at 5:30 that morning, Germans came marching through the streets. Fear quickly spread throughout Luxembourg. My grandma became the lookout at her work to warn others of Germans that were approaching. During the occupation, Luxembourgers had to do the Nazi salute when the Germans walked through. To avoid this, my grandma and her friends would sneak into back alleys and wait for them to pass. During the bombing raids, sirens would go off to signal them to hide in the casemates, which were fortifications with an underground system of passages. If there was no time to reach the casemates, they would go into the cellar, where my grandma and the other workers took their typewriters along with them to continue working. The BBC radio announced bombing raids, which were to happen on May 10th, 11th, and 13th. These raids bombed and destroyed the railroads to successfully prevent Germany from transporting more weapons, goods, and men. During the German bombing raids, my grandma had to wake up in the middle of the night, grab her bag, and run into the forest a half-mile away. Her family did this out of fear that the steel mill, which was very close to her house, would be bombed. As a result of all these raids, many buildings were damaged and destroyed. In order to help with the war effort, Germany started conscription in the countries that they gained control of, including Luxembourg. Germans came to my grandma's house and ordered her brother to join the German army. They told him if he didn't comply, they would shoot his entire family or put them in concentration camps. To protect his family, he agreed and went to serve in the war on the German side. Luxembourgers turned to hiding their food, like my grandma's dad, who put a hole in the wall to hide ham. This was very risky because Germans often came through houses to see if you were hiding food, and if you were, you were sent to the concentration camps. A black market for goods came about, and my grandma got black leather shoes, although she says they didn't fit very well. In December of 1941, America joined World War II on the Allies' side. This allowed the war to be over faster and returned Luxembourg to safety once again. The Germans took control over many aspects of Luxembourgers' lives. In order to convey their national pride and give the impression that there was a lot of support, Germany changed family names in the controlled territories to sound more German. My grandma's family name spelling changed from Goober, G-O-U-B-R, to Goober, G-U-B-R. Food shortages also became very common, and my grandma went to bed hungry many nights with her mom telling her to have a cup of water and go to sleep. With most resources going to the war effort, rationing was started in order to stretch out the limited supplies. Gasoline was especially rationed, so my grandma rode her bike everywhere, rather than driving. Coupons were handed out in order to get food, drinks, goods, gas, and clothing, but even then there wasn't enough. The war led to a depressed economy in Luxembourg. This economic strain left a lasting effect on my grandma. To this day, she only buys things based on cost, not quality. This is a result of high prices for everything during the war. On December 16, 1944, the Battle of the Bulge started. This was 3 miles away from my grandma's house, and she was scared and felt bad for the American soldiers in the harsh winter. My grandma and her family were very relieved when it was over, with an Allied success. After what seemed like a lifetime, Germany finally surrendered, and Victory in Europe Day ensued on May 8, 1945. This was a day of celebration where nobody worked. Many, including my grandma, were dancing and singing the whole day. Luxembourgers took flowers from their yards and threw it on the tanks as they passed by. After the war, Germany sent letters to families to inform them of the death of soldiers. My grandma's family was informed that her brother had been shot and killed during the war. For many years after, they received money from Germany because of his death. Both my grandma's sisters, Trina and Maisie, met U.S. soldiers, married them, and moved to California after the war. In order to keep the family together, my grandma's mother, Cecile, wanted to move the whole family out to America as well. My grandma and the remainder of her family had to wait a couple years to get on the list for the boat to America. After selling their house, they had enough money to buy tickets and get a down payment on a house in America. On February 27, 1948, they left from Dover, England, and sailed on the Queen Mary to Ellis Island. The Luxembourg American Cemetery and Memorial was established in 1944 to thank and commemorate the lives of American soldiers who helped Luxembourg during World War II.